You guys believe in something called what goes around comes around? Isn't that though what the kuffar taught us when we were in nursery? I believe in something called what goes around comes around. However, it may sound similar to what we're going to be speaking about. However, that was very different because they attribute that which happens in the occurrences that take place to other than Allah. To the universe. However, what goes around comes around. Who can give me an evidence from the Quran that proves this concept? هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان. Allahu Akbar. Which surah is that? Surah Al-Rahman. هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان, right? Will one be rewarded with good except good? Any other evidences? من يعمل سوءا يجزى به. Whoever does evil, he'll be rewarded with that. You do evil, expect evil. You're good to the people, expect to be treated in that way. الجزاء من جنس العمل. الجزاء من جنس العمل. Whatever kind of treatment you decide to use with others, expect that back. Right? Also, there's another verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah An-Nisa talks about the orphan. When he says, وَلْيَخْشَ الَّذِينَ لَوْ تَرَكُوا مِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّةً ضِعَافًا خَافُوا عَلَيْهِمْ. And you can also say, خَافُوا عَلَيْهُمْ فَلْيَتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَلْيَقُولُوا قَوْلًا سَدِيدًا. You know how an infant, when his father or mother passes away, who's now going to look after him? Someone else has to look after him, right? This is the individual now that is what? The guardian of this orphan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses him. You know what Allah says to him? The one who's now looking after the orphan. Be extra careful and cautious how you deal with this orphan. Because remember, you are going to be leaving behind your own children. And then there will be someone else that comes along and might treat them the same way you are now treating these orphans that you are responsible of. Is that clear? Be extra careful, brothers and sisters. When you oppress others, it will come back to haunt you sooner or later. It will come back to haunt you sooner or later. 3 types of people's du'as are not rejected. One of them is da'watul madloom, right? The supplication of the one who has been oppressed. The du'a that he makes, it pierces to the skies, the heavens are opened. Heavens are opened. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَأَنصُرَنَّكَ وَلَوْ بَعْدَ حِينٍ. I will come to your aid and assistance even if it is after some time. By the way, for those who walked in late, we are speaking about the concept of what goes around comes around. You guys heard of that before? When did you first hear about it? Growing up somewhere. I heard it when I was in nursery, I think. So Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying to that individual who's in charge of the orphans, be very careful how you treat them. Tomorrow you will leave your own children behind and someone will come along. And perhaps he will deal with them or treat them the same way you used to treat them. Where am I steering this discussion to? Also there's a narration that states, كما تدين تدان, however you treat the people, expect to be, even though it's weak. طيب. There's also a very powerful statement of Ibn Hibban al-Busti, and he mentions in his kitab روضة العقلاء. He says, ما رأيت أحدا تكبر على من هو دونه إلا ابتلاه الله بالذل لمن هو فوقه. I never ever saw someone treating those who are less than him in an arrogant way, except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested him with someone who was greater and higher than him to deal with him in a similar manner. إِلَّا ابْتَلَاهُ اللَّهُ بِالذُّلِّ لِمَنْ هُوَ فَوْقَهُ. Right? He would be in a state of desperation, right? Humiliated by those who are what? Higher than him. I came across a statement of Ibn al-Qayyim rahmatullahi alayhi. He said, مَنْ ضَحِكَ عَلَى النَّاسِ مَنْ ضَحِكَ عَلى النَّاسِ ضُحِكَ عَلَيْهِ. Whoever makes fun of others is going to be laughed at. Putting all these statements and sayings to the side. Have you guys witnessed and noticed things like that? Today he may have been treating someone a certain way and then it ended up happening to him. Right? Ma ra'aykum? That which I'm mentioning, is it outside of the reality that we face from time to time? Is it far-fetched? Is it something that you guys are alien to? You guys have come across situations like that, sah? The reason why I asked you guys about whether you have sisters or not is because of something that I really want to mention now. And I asked you guys, how would you react if a sister fell into something that she shouldn't have fallen into, something that's inappropriate and whatever have you? One of the mashayikh one time that taught me when I was younger, told me a story. I don't think he told me that for a reason. This is when I was growing up, very young. I think I was maybe what? Year 4, year 5. Sorry, not year 4, year 5, maybe year 7 at the time. Came down to Leicester to participate in this Quran school, this Quran summer school. And I love stories, just like everybody loves stories, right? So hey, we enjoy it. And especially if these stories have a benefit, it's worth mentioning. And our Shaykh Abdul Razak al-Badr, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, is from our teachers in the Haram. When he's teaching a lesson at times, right, he would mention a story for the sake of benefit. Because these stories, people can relate to. Sah? So he told me a story of a group of brothers who went out to travel. However, they had a sister. They had a sister. And before traveling out, they went to a sheikh and they said, we're extremely zealous and protective of our younger sister. We're leaving her behind. Right? We have this fear that someone may seduce her, entice her. What is it that we can do? You know what the Shaykh said to them? Just make sure you safeguard the boundaries that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set for you. Make sure that you safeguard the boundaries that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set for you in terms of how you should treat women, or how you should deal with the opposite gender. They were like, is that it? And my sister will be protected. So, yeah. Oh. So they got off. So what happened was, they got off. They settled at wherever they were planning to stay in. One of them decided to go to a shop. Came across this woman that was extremely attractive. He couldn't hold himself except to reach out to her hand. And then she said, Astaghfirullah, you shouldn't be doing this. And he said, oh, yes, I shouldn't be doing this. And he went back to his home. What happened after that? Later on, to cut a very long story short, they came back to their home. And their sister was extremely distraught at something that happened. And she kept on saying, like, I'm extremely distraught and I don't know how to explain to you guys and whatever happened. She said, somebody knocked the door. I opened it. I thought it was you guys who came back. And then he reached out to my hand and grabbed me. And he asked me to have a relationship with him. And I told him, fear Allah. I told him, fear Allah. So they went to the Shaykh. And they were like, Shaykh, you said kada wa kada wa kada, that if we, safeguard the boundaries that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala set for us, in terms of how we should deal with women, then our sister would be safe and nobody would do anything to her. So the Shaykh, he looked at all three of them and he could see in the eyes of one of them that he was the guilty one. They were like, we didn't do anything. And the Shaykh looked at that brother. Is that true? Did you guys not do anything? And then he related the incident and they looked at each other in shock. And then it began to make sense. It began to make a lot of sense. Is that clear, brothers and sisters? كَمَا تُدِينُ تُدَانُ. A lot of brothers, they want to mess around with sisters, right? They want to have these inappropriate discussions with the opposite gender. But the moment someone does the exact same with their own siblings, becomes upset. Do you guys agree with that? While I was in Umrah, I was having a discussion with a brother in the Haram, in front of the Kaaba. He was telling me about how his sister's this and she's that. And every brother would be hurt that his sister would turn out like that. And at the same time, he's telling me how he has a relationship with maybe 4 girls. This is surprising, brothers. And he's telling me how he became extremely upset. And he also upset the family that she one time came out on Snapchat and the guy or something, I think it was the guy himself, recorded her on her birthday or whatever, and that really made him feel a certain way. I'll tell you guys of an incident that my mum told me about. It's a true story. In places like the Khalij, Gulf areas that are so much more conservative, right? It's not as straightforward as somebody now going to the club, taking a woman out to the hotel. That's what they do, right? Go to the club, picks a girl up, takes her to the hotel, does all types of fahisha with her, and then pays for her taxi and they go back home. Sahih? It's not as straightforward. They're so much more conservative, right? The sum'ah, the reputation, is extremely valued there, right? Valued. The tribes, they care about their reputation. So if one steps out of line, it goes wrong very quickly. So if he wants to commit a sin, he's not going to do it in the open. So my mom was saying to me that if you wanted to commit zina with another, there would be ways to get in contact with people. They would set it up. You'd walk into a building, the girl would be inside, the lights would be switched off. You'd commit zina, and then you'd walk out, and then she would end up leaving as well. And that's how they would commit fahisha. You might not necessarily even come to know who that person actually is. Just wants to relieve himself, commits a zina, and that's it. Are you brothers with me? A couple of months go by, they find out that his sister is pregnant. What did we mention earlier? كما تدين تدان. And of course now the reputation of the family is on the line, right? What families sometimes tend to do is, as soon as they find out that the daughter is pregnant, what do? In order to conceal this bad reputation of the family, They get them married off very, very quickly. Huh? I think in Somali they call it the, what do you call it? Bak marriage. Huh? Yani get it done very quickly. They are begging the sister for the sake of the family's reputation. Please tell us who impregnated you. And she's honestly saying, I don't know. Because I told you guys the situation in these conservative countries at the time, right? And then because the brother had a very good relationship with his sister, as she's about to give birth, he enters upon her and he begs her, I won't tell anyone. I'll make sure I can see it. We'll try and make up a story. Let's just try and, protect the reputation of the family. And she's saying, I honestly don't know. So he tells her, tell me, what exactly happened? When, where, what? So she begins to describe it. It was on that day, in that place, across the road from that place. He said, yes. It was around this time. The brother walks out and he commits suicide. Why do you think he committed suicide, brothers? Because it was him who impregnated his own sister. It was him who impregnated his own sister. Before I left Saudi Arabia, me and the family, we took a taxi to Jeddah. And normally when you have a taxi driver, you begin to start talking to him, right? You start having a conversation with the taxi man. And I said to him, tell me the situation here in the kingdom. You have a lot of youngsters, you have a lot of shabab, because I heard a lot of things that take place. And he said to me, listen, as a taxi driver, we see things that many people don't. Because we are the guys who drop people off. Are you brothers and sisters with me? He says, we as taxi drivers, we see things that many people don't. In some of these countries, brothers, you have compounds that people are not given access to unless you have a code. It's like where rich people live. Where rich people live, if you want to get into the compound where all of these very big, huge, lavish mansions are, you need a code to get in. So, taxi driver is carrying a sister in the back of his car. Wallahi, brothers, he told me this as my sisters, he told me this as we were on our way to Jeddah. Because I'm the one that's dropping her sister off. Where am I dropping her off to? A party. So we drive up, park the car in front of the mansion. There's a party going on, right? So the sister now is dropped off, sah. As the taxi driver is about to drive off, they call him and say, come back, Surah, come. And then they say to her, take this girl with you. Take this girl with you. She was in another taxi, however the taxi already drove off. What happened? She walked into the party. Who do you think she saw? She saw her brother there. She saw her brother there. Of course, now the way she's dressed up, she's now arrived at this mansion in order to do what? To just have a cup of tea? These parties that happen behind closed doors. You think male and men. We're in Pride Month, by the way. We are in Pride Month. We do have male and men. Ala kulli hal, do you think when men and women get together, they just have a cup of tea, guys? Especially in a mansion that's closed off and then you have rooms. In these mansions, everybody basically has their the relaxed moment to do whatever they want. Think that they just have a cup of tea with one another. My mom used to say, right, men and women are like deb and suf. What does deb and suf mean? For you Somali brothers, what does that mean? Fire and cotton. What happens when you take a lighter and you put it right next to cotton? What happens to the cotton? How long does it take before this cotton now? Milliseconds. Is that what they call it, right? Milliseconds, Milliseconds. Not even seconds, minute, woof, it goes off. Men and women are like that. Do you guys agree? Every single person here, and don't try and act like some tough guy. If I put a woman in a room with you, right, alone, there's no one else there, how long do you think you're going to last? Brothers, an attractive woman who's not dressed appropriately, I place her in a room with you, how long do you think you're going to last? Wallahi brothers, and I'm not saying this trying to be humble, right? I don't think any da'iyah, right, would feel safe in that kind of environment. And I'm the first of them. That's exactly what the Prophet ﷺ said. مَا تَرَكْتُ فِتْنَةً, I never left a fitna that is more greater upon my ummah than what? Women. Wallahi al-azim. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, إِيَّاكُمْ وَالدُّخُولَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ. Be extra wary when entering upon women. Right? Don't do this. إِيَّاكُمْ وَالدُّخُولَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ. You're being prohibited from doing so. So the Messenger ﷺ was asked about the hamu, who is the brother-in-law. أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ الْحَمُو? The Messenger ﷺ said, Al-hamu maut. The brother-in-law who is the closest to his brother's wife. The Messenger ﷺ said, he is death. He is death. Mingling with one another is like what? Dab is suf. Make sense? You guys know what dab is suf is now? Dab means fire. Suf means cotton. What happens when you put cotton and dab alongside one another? Fire and cotton. What happens, brothers? Is that clear? So she gets back into the taxi, the sister, and she starts talking to the taxi driver. And the taxi driver then told me this a couple of months after. Because what happened? It was like, my brother was in there. My brother was in there and he has 2 kids and a wife. He's there to mess around with women. And I'm shocked. And he asks her, well, what are you doing? Then, no, I just went, my friends and whatever have you. I didn't know and this, that. And she doesn't even live in that city. Both him and her, they traveled out with their own independent journeys to this house in Jeddah to commit what? Ahish. To commit filth and evil. What goes around comes around. You want to mess around with other people's daughters, right? And other people's sisters? Don't get upset when it happens to your sister. Don't get upset when it happens to your daughter. Don't get upset when it happens to your wife. You want to go to work, right? And you let your guard down. You become extra comfortable with the women around you because you think no one's going to find out. Remember, we are living in the era of millennials, when one can easily slide into the DMs of your sisters and also your wives. And some of your female relatives. So I always say to you, some of my relatives, if you want your little sister, right, inshallah ta'ala, to remain safe, make sure you take extra care with how you conduct yourself. You think you can just have these easygoing, flirtatious, I'll call it flirtatious, conversations with my friends from school. You really think men and women can be friends? You guys know Steve Harvey? Guys came across that video? Huh? You get a chance, when you go home today, type in Steve Harvey, can male and women be friends? It's a very powerful clip. It's a very, very powerful clip. Deb is soft, fire and cotton. That's how men and women are. That's why the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he also said, ما خلا رجل مع امرأة إلا كان الثالث من الشيطان. Never does a man seclude himself with a woman except that the third is who? Shaitan. Even at a marriage meeting, sometimes even the parents, they let their guard down, right? The mum might go upstairs to watch EastEnders. There's a case like that happened. Mom said, listen, I'm going upstairs, there's a program, EastEnders, I can't. And she left them both downstairs. Shaitan is the third one. And before you knew it, brothers and sisters, they were very intimate with one another. Allahi alladhi la ilaha ghayruh. He was telling me himself. And they are, well, I don't know about her, he was a righteous brother. Practicing righteous brother. Even now when it comes to what? The DMs and Instagram and whatever have you, sometimes the shaitan comes under the guise of, I'm giving da'wah to her. Huh? No, you're not, brother. She's giving da'wah to you. Huh? Honestly, guys, do you agree with that? You saw her picture, she looks attractive. Huh? I'm going to give da'wah to her and call it Islam and marry her. ضحك عليك الشيطان. Shaitan is laughing at you. That's how it starts, the traps of the shaitan, right? Traps of the shaitan. Comes through what? Women. Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, when a woman leaves the house, إذا خرجت من بيتها استشرفها الشيطان. The shaitan beautifies her. That's why she needs to take extra care in how she goes about adorning herself, the kind of clothing that she wears. Even if she's wearing a niqab and jilbab, shaitan is still what? Purifying her. I have a relative one time said to me, listen, oh, my fitna is seeing niqabi women. Wallahi, he goes, my fitna is seeing niqabi women. That makes it even more mysterious seeing what's behind that. Huh? So you shouldn't even be looking at the niqabi. You guys with me? So the shaitan is beautifying the woman. He's what? Beautifying the woman. Even if she's wearing a niqab. So you need to still lower your gaze, because the eyes can be dangerous. And I'll put this out as well. You're in a niqab, my sister. Last thing you should be doing is putting all types of mascara and stuff and eyeliner and whatever have you on your eyes. Do you guys agree with that? Sometimes that can entice, huh? The eyelashes, huh? Huh? Sahih, brothers? What was the point I was trying to make, brothers? Shaitan beauty. Before that, men and women being what? Alone with one another. Men and women being alone with one another is a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for disaster. This is why some of the scholars, they would say, if you entrust me now with a mountain of gold, I'd maybe take the trust. However, even what? A slave girl that is so unattractive, I wouldn't feel what's safe around her. I wouldn't feel safe around her. And I'm sure Imran has told you guys many stories, right? About these kind of situations and whatever have you. That's why I just wanted to deal with it differently. What's the first lesson that we're going to walk away with today? You have a sister. Control yourself in order to control your sister. Safeguard the boundaries of Allah Azza wa Jalla, inshaAllah ta'ala, right? You are working towards protecting your sister as well. That's the main thing, brothers and sisters. Is It's the main thing. It's extremely hypocritical, don't you think? You don't want anyone to do anything to your sister, but you're messing around with other people's sisters. Today I want to read something out to every single one of you. And it is on Islam Q&A. Free mixing. You can go on about it all day, give you guys evidences from the Quran and the Sunnah, what the Salaf have mentioned, whatever have you. However, these true stories can sometimes have an impact on an individual. Right? I've been meaning to mention this in a video, just to read it out for the sake of benefit. Sometimes that which is written down isn't always looked at, especially by the millennials. The millennials don't read, they just watch. And what do they watch? 2-minute clips. No, sorry, astaghfirullah, not even 2-minute clips, 30-second clips. Do you guys agree with that? Even 2 minutes now has become too long. That's why you have reels. All these social media companies, they came to realize attention span is getting lower and lower. If you want to grab somebody's attention, and maybe go through the rules, because one's just flicking all day long, all day long, all day long, all day long. Some Q&A, my brothers and my sisters, let me just clarify something, right? I don't know of a website that has given service to the English language. That has given service to Al-Islam in the English language in Islam Q&A. Wallahi. And I say this with hands on heart. At times it helps me translate certain texts in Arabic language. And may Allah Azza wa Jal reward the founder. However, do we take everything that the Shaykh has mentioned? No, of course not. Our Shaykh Falah Ismail Mandakar, some of you may know him, some of you don't. Before he passed away in Manchester, I remember, and our brother Ustad Abdul Abbas was a witness to it. I asked him, because there's a lot of kalam. Even one of the things that our brother's being refuted for, is he praised Shaykh Salih Munajjid. Or he said benefits from Islam Q&A. Shaykh Osman, one of the things they're refuting him for. I think it's important that I mention this. Shaykh Falah, we asked him, should we benefit from the site? He said yes. But just when it comes to some of the manhaj issues, then maybe refrain from that. Not everything that's on the website is perfect. Like these issues pertaining to manhaj are maybe what, a 0.00.1%. I think I said that's the most correctly. Right? Maybe I didn't. It's a very small portion. Right? You shouldn't take from. However, 99.99999 is issues pertaining what fiqh and whatever have you that should be benefiting from. And maybe because of that small percentage, right? Why would a whole website now be disregarded? But we don't take everything that the Shaykh may say, right, fair and just. Anyways, I came across this page a very, very long time ago. And whenever someone wants to argue, or should I say, condense the seriousness of free mixing, I just send them this, and I never get a response back. Victims of mixing, true stories. Lost hope. This is what it says here. Muhammad, a mature woman over the age of 40, tells her story. Sometimes we have this tasahul, right? Taking it lightly, where one says, he is just your uncle. Sahih? He's your uncle. Who's an uncle? Last time I checked the books, who's an uncle, brothers? That's brother, sah? That's the paternal uncle, then you have the maternal uncle. Sahih? My daughter now, my brother sitting here, Ibrahim, he's her paternal uncle. Sah? Is he allowed to take Taymiyyah with her and spend time with her? And does she need to wear hijab when she grows older in front of her uncle Ibrahim? She needs to wear hijab? Come on, brothers, I see some guys nodding heads. She doesn't need to wear it. That's her mahram. Right? In some communities, especially, and I'll say this, right, in Somali community, The mom might say, some ajnabi guy, right? He's not a relative, لا من قريب ولا من بعيد. He's not a close relative and he's not a far relative. Just because they grew up with one another, right? The mom says, oh, he's your uncle. How do you say uncle again in Somali? Abti. That's it. Well, abti gaga. Don't worry. Why is it so kornai? We grew up together. Don't worry, I know Somali brothers. I can get by. We grew up together. We were from the same place. It's fine. Brothers, Wallahi al-Azim. How many cases have I come across because of this tasahul? There was sexual abuse that took place. Sexual abuse. Subhanallah. Let me ask you guys another question. I think this is a benefit worth mentioning. Right? My dad's wife, am I allowed to travel with her? Am I mahram for her? Yes, I am. Dad's wife, I'm her mahram. Imam Malik, rahmatullahi alayhi, who took knowledge from the likes of Nafi', the Tabi'een, long time ago. He has a fatwa saying that it's not appropriate. Imagine I lived in that time. For me to travel with my dad's wife. He said it then. Why? Intishar al-fasad. Because corruption became widespread. Because some of the cases they were having, especially if she's young. Especially if she's young. Is it haram? He's not saying it's haram, but he's saying it should be avoided. And sometimes the fatwa can change. Intishar al-fasad. وَالضَّعْفِ الْوَازِعِ الدِّينِي. People becoming weak in their religion. You need to sometimes put what? Barriers in place.